Well, hello and welcome back to another Premier League predictions. We're in game week 30, only 8 game weeks left after this one. And, it's really heating up. Not only do we have a very exciting title fight on our hands, but we also have, unfortunately for me, a very interesting relegation scrap as well. I'd say there are about 6 teams that could get pulled in or are already in the relegation zone, so should make for some entertainment, and hopefully we don't see Forest get relegated, but that is a very real possibility at the moment. Anyway, we're just going to jump straight into it. We've got a full game week after the quite small and sad game week we had last week. But anyway, we're just going to jump into it with the Saturday fixtures. I'm going to start off with Newcastle United versus West Ham United. Newcastle United host West Ham at St James's Park as they look to make a return to winning ways and make a push for the European spots come end of the season. West Ham will also be looking to make a return to winning ways and continue their push for Europe. Newcastle United are coming off the back of a loss as they fell to Chelsea in the capital, which was actually quite an entertaining match to be fair, from a neutral perspective anyway. This takes the Magpies' form to 2 wins and a draw from their last 5, and sees them stuck in mid-table as their inconsistent form continues. West Ham have been enjoying some better form recently, with the Hammers coming off the back of a draw against Villa, which takes their form to 2 wins and 2 draws from their last 5. The Hammers have been performing better recently, but St James's Park is a tough place to go. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw. I can see the points being shared up north. Newcastle United have been pretty unlucky this season, as their squad has been ravaged by injuries, and that has definitely affected their performances. Compounded by their second most expensive signing and first choice keeper being out for extended periods. I mean, just look what happened to Tonali, man. Second most expensive signing for Newcastle United, and he's done that. Milan have had their pants down, let's be real. West Ham have enjoyed some better fortunes, especially on the injury front, not missing many important players for long periods, which, unfortunately for Newcastle fans, can't be said for them. This has been seen by their performances this season. Newcastle are still without important players, but do play much better at home, whereas West Ham are in some better form at the moment, have more of their important players available. However, they will be missing Alvarez and Kudus, who are arguably important players, maybe Kudus more than Alvarez, so it does diminish their attacking prowess. With all that combined, I do see the points being shared in Newcastle. And then we've got to Chelsea versus Burnley. Chelsea host Burnley at Stamford Bridge, as both teams look to build on their wins as they start to string together some victories for some vital points. Chelsea are coming back with a win over Newcastle in what was a 5-goal thriller. This takes Chelsea's form to 2 wins and 2 draws from their last 5. However, no matter what they do, they seem to remain in 11th place. Burnley have made moves to further distance themselves from the foot of the league as they come off the back of a very impressive win over Fulham. This takes the Clarets' form to 1 win and a draw from their last 5. It's not brilliant form, but they have been getting those all-important points on the board as they sit 5 points from safety. The Clarets have shown that they're not finished yet. I'm going to say 2-1 to Chelsea though. I'm backing Chelsea to keep the 3 points in the capital. The Blues have been ravaged by injury this season, and they've seen many of their squad rotate through the injury room, with many still on the sidelines. This is like it was supporting Forest last season. We had so many players out injured, and now it's Chelsea's turn. Burnley have had some better injury luck than their opponents, but haven't gone off lightly either, with some important players still on the sidelines. Burnley are also one of the leakiest teams in the league, conceding 63 goals so far this season, and with the attacking players that Chelsea have at their disposal, it could be looking bleak for Burnley. That being said though, Chelsea have been very inconsistent this season, so they could very easily drop points here, but they should have enough about them to claim those 3 points at Stamford Bridge and, get another 3 points on the board in a bid to move from 11th place. But knowing Chelsea, results will go against them and they'll stay in 11th. Kind of poetic really. And then we move on to Sheffield United versus Fulham. Sheffield United host Fulham at Bramall Lane as they look to build on their draw and get more points on the board. Fulham will be looking to string together a winner of victories as the Cottagers look to build on their impressive win over Spurs. Fulham's win in West London takes their form to 3 wins from their last 5 as they solidify their position in the middle of the table. They're no longer a yo-yo club, I think it's safe to say. Sheffield United have not been having a great time of things this season though. The Blades are rooted to the bottom of the league, however are coming off the back of a brilliant 2-2 draw against Bournemouth. This takes their form to a draw and a win from their last 5. Not brilliant form, exactly like Burnley's, but they are, unfortunately, 8 points from safety, unlike the Clarets, who are 5 points from safety. So they need some points if they want to, 1, catch up Burnley, and 2, be in with a chance of surviving, but it's not looking good, is it? It's getting to that point where they're mathematically down. Like, it's creeping up on them. It is a tall order for Sheffield United if they want to stay in the Premier League for another season, and against Fulham, that is even harder. I'm going to say 3-0 to the Cottagers. I'm backing Fulham to claim all 3 points in Yorkshire. Sheffield United have been suffering from quite a few injuries at the moment, but it's hard to say whether those injuries have affected their chances of survival. Fulham have been far more lucky on the injury front, as they're currently boasting no players on the sidelines. They've also been in some better form than their opponents too, especially Muniz, who's topped their scoring charts this season, and is coming in some good form recently as well. Sheffield United have conceded the most goals this season, currently sitting at 74 conceded. Oh my god. And a team with the attacking prowess that Fulham seemingly has at their disposal, it's not looking good for the Blades. The Blades' terrible defensive record does not bode well for them here, as I see Fulham taking all 3 points back to the capital, and if we're being honest, 3 goals may be a conservative estimate. But Sheffield United do sometimes have a bit of defence about them, so you never know. 3 goals may be realistic. Okay, then we move on to Nottingham Forest versus Crystal Palace. Nottingham Forest versus Crystal Palace as the home side are reeling from a 4-point deduction. Yes, if you're not an avid viewer of the O2 GT channel or Premier League football in general, Nottingham Forest have been hit with a 4-point deduction for breaching PSR rules. I went into that in my own video. I'm not going to go into it here, but we're appealing, so we could end up losing more points or actually getting some points back. Who knows? Either way, they will be looking to nullify that deduction as soon as possible and clamber outside of the relegation zone. Crystal Palace are coming back with a draw as they shared the points with Luton at Sellers Park, dropping points right at the death. This takes Palace's form to 2 draws and a win from their last 5. Not the brightest of starts for Glasner, but definitely an improvement. Forest also coming back with a draw as they also shared the points with Luton, once again falling late on. These fucking hatters, man, it's so annoying. This takes Forest's form to a win and a draw from their last 5. That's not great form for a side looking to survive, but they were just above the relegation zone before the points deduction was announced. So we've not been playing well for quite a while, to be honest. But I'm going to say 1-0 to Forest. I'm backing Forest to keep the 3 points in the East Midlands and chip away at that points deduction. Forest are only expected to have a handful of players sidelined, with Boss Palace are suffering from quite a few injuries at the moment, and it seems to have been that way for the entire season. And definitely played a part in the bad run they had under Hodgson, which obviously brought Glasner being in, but performances haven't really improved because there's still a lot of players on the sidelines. Quite frankly, they're just still suffering. You know what that means, though. We've been here time and time again. With these advantages for Forest, they will bottle it. However, we are below them in the table, so maybe that counteracts the bottle that we normally face when we face teams which are suffering from injuries, you know? Although we were both below Brighton and Manchester United when we played those, so maybe not. Palace have been better in defence than their opponents, conceding 48 goals to Forest's 51. It's not a massive difference, but does highlight a weakness for Forest, which we've known for quite a while. If they get a set piece, we are finished. However, Forest have been more prolific at the other end of the pitch, scoring 35 goals to Palace's 33. Now, that is partly down to Palace's time under Hodgson, but shows something that Forest are better at than their opponents, and honestly, we'll take anything at this point. I do imagine it'll be a very close affair, quite a cagey match, but I expect Forest to give us all-important 3 points in the East Midlands, and I suspect the City ground is going to be roaring, because we need to get behind the players, make that points deduction count for nothing, and just go hell for leather. Because there's no reason we can't win this match. There's no reason we can't survive. So let's show it here. I think Forest have what it takes to overcome Crystal Palace. But like I said, it will be a very tight match. And then we move on to Bournemouth versus Everton. Bournemouth host Everton at Dean Court, as the Cherries look to build on their win and get a winning run going. Everton are coming back with a loss as they failed to beat Manchester United at Old Trafford. This takes the Toffees' form to 2 draws from their last 5, as they continue to fail to move away from the relegation zone. I've been there, boys. I've been there. They got a 4-point buffer above the relegation zone, but if teams around them pick up points, they could find themselves in the relegation zone sooner than they expect, especially with the points deduction hanging over their head. Or a possible points deduction, but fingers crossed it's a points deduction. Bournemouth are coming back with a win, as they beat Luton Town in a 7-goal throw at Kenilworth Road. I'll tell you, man, the head loss the Forest group chat was experiencing when Luton Town went 3-0 up was fucking immense. Oh my god. Thank God for Bournemouth. And I never thought I'd be saying that. This takes the Cherries' form to 2 wins and 2 draws from their last 5. This should be a good clash between the two sides. I'm going to say 2-1 to Bournemouth, I think. I can see Bournemouth giving all 3 points on the south coast. Both teams are experiencing some injuries of their own, with the Cherries being the side that are currently worse off, unfortunately, for them. The Cherries have been extremely prolific in front of net this season, with Dominic Solanke leading their scoring charts and being the 3rd top scorer in the league. They've scored 41 goals so far this season, which far exceeds Everton's 29 goals. However, they've also conceded more than Everton now, conceding 52 to Everton's 39. The Toffees love to be a difficult side to break down, but I do see Bournemouth being able to do that with the attacking talent they have at their disposal. The Cherries have not been great at the back, as can be seen by the goals they've conceded, so I do see Everton scoring their 30th goal of the season. However, ultimately, I see the attacking force that Bournemouth have at their disposal sealing the 3 points for Iriola's men as they continue to march up the table. They're playing very well this season. And then we move on to Tottenham Hotspur versus Luton Town. Tottenham host Luton in North London as they both look to make a swift return to winning ways. Luton are coming back with a draw against Nottingham Forest as they scored in the dying embers to ensure that they gained a point in Bedfordshire. This takes the Hatters' form to 2 draws from their last 5. Not great form for a team looking to survive, but they do sit a point clear of the relegation zone based purely on Forest's point deduction. Spurs are coming back with a shock loss to Fulham in West London as they fail to beat the Cottagers. This takes Spurs' form to 3 wins from their last 5, as their quest for Champions football is another bump in the road. I'm going to say 3-0 to Spurs though. I am backing Spurs to get 3 points in the capital and put that loss to Fulham behind them. Spurs and Villa are battling out for top 4, with Spurs just 3 points behind the Villains. They'll be seeing Luton as a prime opportunity to make some ground on their opponents and hopefully seal a Champions League spot. Luton have had impressive performances this season, but results haven't always gone their way. The Hatters have scored as many goals as Spurs have conceded this season at 42, with the flip side being very similar too. Spurs have scored 59 goals, whilst Luton have conceded 60, which is the 3rd worst record in the league. And with the amount of injury problems Luton are having, that's only going to get worse. Tottenham have some brilliant attacking depth that I can see causing a lot of problems for Luton's leaky backline in North London. I see Spurs keeping all 3 points in the capital as they stake their claim, but they still have to overtake the Villains before that becomes a reality. But yeah, I think Luton's got a really tough run in, and there are teams that will be looking to pick some vital points when they face the Hatters, so it's not looking good for them. But who knows. And then move on to Aston Villa versus Wolves. It's a West Midlands clash as Aston Villa host Wolves at Villa Park. Some people call it a derby, but research was a bit inconclusive in that regard, so I'm just going to say it's a West Midlands clash and keep it at that. Wolves have been playing well this season as they're coming back a win against Fulham. This takes their form to 3 wins from their last 5 as they keep marching up the table. Villa are coming back with a draw as they share the points with West Ham in their capital. This takes the Villains' form to a draw and 3 wins from their last 5 and keeps them firmly in a Champions League spot, which they'll be looking to defend from the challenger Spurs in the upcoming weeks. Whether it's a derby or not, I imagine both sets of fans will be up for this clash between 2 powerhouses of the West Midlands. I'm going to say 2-1 to Villa. I see Villa keeping the 3 points in Birmingham. Both teams have been performing very well this season, as can be seen by them both finding themselves in the top half of the league. Both teams are also suffering from their fair share of injuries though. Villa have more players sidelined, but Wolves have more important players set to miss out. Now, this information could change as we get closer to the match day, but their top scorer, Hwang, and second top scorer, Cunha, are still set to be sidelined for this clash. Top assister Pedro Neto is also set to miss out as well, so a lot of big losses for Wolves. Villa are also missing some important players, but their main attackers are still fit and firing, ready to exploit this weakened Wolves side. Villa have been a lot more lethal in attack this season, scoring 60 goals so far, whereas Wolves have not been too bad at the back, only conceding 44 goals so far this season, but I do see that changing and I do see Villa causing them a lot of issues. I do see the point staying in Birmingham as Villa once again stake their claim to a top 4 spot. This Spurs Villa, are they actually playing each other coming up? Let me have a look. Hang on, give me 1 second here. No, so Spurs aren't playing Villa in these remaining game weeks, so there's not going to be a definitive top 4 or 4th place clash. So yeah, I think Villa probably have the better run-in of the 2, but you never know. And then we move on to Brentford versus Manchester United. Brentford hosts Manchester United in West London as the Bees look to make a return to winning ways and avoid dropping further into a relegation scrap. Manchester United have been enjoying better fortunes as they're coming back with a win as they beat Everton at Old Trafford. This takes the Red Devils' form to 3 wins from their last 5 as they attempt to claw back a European spot come end of the season. Brentford coming back with a loss as they failed to overcome Burnley and Lancashire. It's another loss for the Bees that takes their form to 1 draw from their last 5, which is not a good sign when you're looking to avoid the drop and you're very, very close to that relegation zone. I'm going to say 2-0 to Manchester United. I can see Man United taking all 3 points back up north. Both teams are suffering from a lot of injuries at the moment, so we could see some very interesting lineups come Saturday night. Harry Maguire in attack, anyone? Brentford have been hardest hit by their injuries though, as they find themselves 5 points clear. Of the 2 though, Brentford have definitely been the hardest hit by their injuries, and as such find themselves just 5 points clear of the relegation zone. It is a good buffer, but if they keep failing to pick up points, it doesn't really matter. Neither side have been great in front of net this season, United scoring 39 goals, seeing as one of the lowest scoring sides outside of the relegation zone. This is compared to Brentford's 41 goals, who've been without their main attacking players for a large chunk of the season. United have been a lot better at the back though, conceding 39 goals to Brentford's 54. And again, that's not been helped by the injury woes, but still, it's not looking good for the Bees. Ultimately though, I do reckon United will claim 3 points here, and further they go for some more European football come end of the season. As much as I love a Brentford bottle, a United bottle is so much sweeter. Okay, and then move on to the Sunday fixtures, and Liverpool versus Brighton. Liverpool host Brighton at Anfield is looked to make a return to the summit of English football. Brighton are coming back with a win as they squeaked past Nottingham Forest on the south coast. This takes the Seagulls' form to 2 wins and a draw from their last 5. It keeps them squarely mid-table, but does see inconsistent performances continue. Liverpool are coming back with a draw to City as they failed to overcome their title challenges in Manchester. This takes their form to 4 wins and a draw from their last 5. This does keep them competitive in the title race, however it did see them slip behind Arsenal based on goal difference. They'll see Brighton's opportunity to retake the lead and return to the summit of the league, and I'm going to say 3-1 to Liverpool. I am backing Liverpool to claim all 3 points here. It's no secret that Liverpool have been swamped by injuries this season, but so have Brighton, though that is to a lesser extent than their opponents. Despite that though, Liverpool have shown that they can still compete. Both teams have brilliant attacking outfits this season, with Liverpool scoring 65 goals whilst Brighton have scored 50. Unfortunately for the Seagulls though, their top scorer is set to be sidelined through injury, as are a few more of their attacking options. Some of Liverpool's attackers are also doubtful, but Salah is set to play, so they do have that going for them. Liverpool will be desperate to put the FA Cup defeat behind them and regain their spot at the top of the league, and I think they'll do that here. It's impressive how Liverpool have played with all these injuries they've accrued, but the performances don't lie, and Brighton can't exactly say the same. I see Liverpool claiming all 3 points on Merseyside and making a return to the top of the Premier League. But for how long is a very different question, and that's because the last clash of the week is Manchester City versus Arsenal. We entered the week with a brilliant top of the table clash at the Etihad. Reigning champions Manchester City host current league leaders Arsenal, as the citizens are looking to make a return to winning ways and get their title defence back on track. Arsenal are coming back with a win as they beat Brentford, which saw them climb to the top of the league. This takes the Gunners' form to 5 wins from 5, which is title winning form if you ask me. Manchester City coming back with a draw as they share the points with Liverpool. This takes their form to 3 wins and 2 draws from their final 5, which is not exactly title winning form. I'm going to say 2-1 to Arsenal. I do think that Arsenal will claim all 3 points here. It could be a very rogue shout from me, but I do see the Gunners winning this clash. Manchester City have accrued quite a few injuries this season, and very recently as well, and I do think that ultimately cost them in this important match. Arsenal have been brilliant in attack this season, topping the scoring charts as they've scored 70 goals so far, which is very impressive I must say. But, I mean, despite having the league's top goal scorer, City have only scored 63 goals so far this season, with Haaland not being as potent as he was last season. They don't look as lethal in attack as they have been in previous seasons, which I'm not sure why, because they've not really changed their attacking personnel. Like, realistically, they were banging in goals last season, and that's just not the case this season. So I think people may have figured out Haaland already, which wasn't hard, let's say that. Because, I mean, you see him like performing in the Champions League and stuff, but then he faces a team in the Premier League and he doesn't really do as well. Like, last season he was banging the hat-tricks left and right. He's not really done that this season, so I'm not sure if it's a problem with Haaland himself or City in general, but yeah, they're not as prolific as they were last season. Arsenal do have injuries of their own, but they're not as extensive as those the citizens are facing. However, they could be without Saka, who is a very important player for them. Arsenal have also been better defensively than their opponents, conceding 24 to City's 28. Now, those are very impressive tallies for both sides, but only conceding 24 goals so far is very impressive. All things are pointing up for Arsenal, and I see them claiming all 3 points in this very important title clash, and it could easily be a title decider. You know, Man City, they're challenging for the title, but they're just not there yet. Whereas Arsenal and Liverpool, they're going to be staying level on points, and it's really about who can score the most goals. The title challenge has been blown wide open, and honestly, I'm here for it. Makes for very exciting viewing as a neutral, and, you know, provides a good distraction when your team is sitting in the relegation zone, and it doesn't look like they're going to win a match anytime soon. Anyway, I've been O2GT. Hope you have a brilliant rest of your day, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Peace.